All right, what's up, bookworms? It's been a little bit since I've done a reading review. I've been reading books. I just haven't been recording reviews for them because I haven't had the time. But nonetheless, got a couple on the way. This one included. So um, let's jump in here to our next book. So this review is about East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And quick little caveat there. So even though it's been a little bit since I did a review and it's been a little while since I've read this book, these thoughts are pretty fresh because kind of my method is that after I finish reading a book, I wait about a day or so. Then I write down my written review, which you can't see because it's over here on another screen. And then only after that do I start reading another book. So anytime, like usually I don't record a review right after finishing a book. Usually it's several weeks, and in this case, several months after finishing a book. That's why sometimes you'll notice that I'll reference my notes more than others because sometimes it's been longer. Sometimes it is like within a few days, but often it's not. I tend to also record a bunch of these all at once and then just upload them like drip feed style. So you'll probably notice me looking at the notes quite a bit because I finished this back in March, and this is June as of this recording right now. So anyway, I digress. East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It was originally published in 1952. And it was considered by Steinbeck himself to be his magnum opus. It's kind of difficult to put this into a quick synopsis because there's just, without really going into like an overly detailed backstory of so many of the characters, because there are quite a few different characters. Like I don't know that you can say there's a main character or characters in this. There are main character families, the Hamiltons and the Trasks. So kind of the best way I can describe this is that this book tells the story of the Hamiltons and the Trask and their families, like I said, that live in the Salinas Valley in California. The story stretches from the very end of the American Civil War and goes all the way up through World War One. Within the story, it deals with a lot of guilt and jealousy and the acceptance of being in control of oneself and how you deal with that. I'm pretty sure I've talked about Steinbeck quite a lot on this channel before. Though I think this is the first time I've reviewed one of his books. I'd have to look through older videos, but I don't think I read any Steinbeck last year, and that's when I started the channel. So I can imagine that there are any of those. But I know I've talked about Steinbeck before. But I've never read East of Eden. I've read a lot of his other work, and make no mistake, he is one of my favorite authors of all time. I think he's the quintessential American author. But again, I've never read East of Eden before, but I've always wanted to read it, and I've started it once or twice before, but it's a giant book, and it's one of those books where I think that you can't really appreciate it until you're a little bit older, I think. And so I finally just said, what the hell, I'm going to read East of Eden. And I'm really glad that I did, because it is nothing short of absolutely amazing. Steinbeck is an absolute master of his craft, and all of his skills are kind of on display here in East of Eden. It's a really large story because it stretches all the way from the East Coast, all the way then to the West Coast of the United States, and again stretches across from, the mid 1860s to the early 1900s, stretching about, 50 years, just about. And even though it's such a large story and it's such a big story and it deals with really big elements of not only life, but also the way we kind of view, our world around us, it's also an immensely personal story. And I really developed this kind of deep connection with the material the more that I was reading it. Steinbeck creates this cast of characters that they feel very real. They all have, virtues and vices. None of them feel cookie cutter. None of them feel that they're just placeholders. They all feel very individual as characters, and that's really important to giving a story life, I think. And that's juxtaposed by some of the other books that I've read that I'll go in other reviews where the characters didn't have that. They didn't have that life to them. I think some of this comes from because part of the material, at least somewhat, is biographical about Steinbeck's family, and there's even a small self-insert of a very young John Steinbeck in there as well. So he did pull elements from his own family history and whatnot. He's somehow able to take these kind of mundane lives of families that live on farms, which I, being a kid that grew up on a farm, I could connect with the mundanity of that. And he's able to take that mundanity to make it very interesting, even if you have no experience with being on a farm, I think. He makes you feel what these characters are feeling, both not only like the things that they feel upset about, but also the things they feel hopeful about, the things that they feel hopeless about, the things that they're excited about, the things that they're sad about. He's just so good at communicating those things with his words. I am jealous of his ability to do that. It's nothing short of amazing. It's honestly, it's on the level of borderlining like almost telepathy, I would have to say. The novel uses the Salinas Valley, which I am not familiar with, but it's not just a setting, though. It also kind of is a character of its own. I mean, he goes into really deep detail about the farming of the Salinas Valley and how that existed at that time period. I mean, the novel opens with page upon page just describing the history of the Salinas Valley and how it floods, and then how there are droughts, and the difficulty of digging wells in certain areas. And it's all done to give this texture to this world that he has built. So much to the point where when he's describing it, you can smell the grass as he's describing the rolling hills of this valley. It's, again, borderline telepathy that he's able to do here. As always, I didn't bother to read or watch any reviews before reading this, but I did. I didn't read any reviews at all. Usually, I never read any before reading a book, but sometimes I will read some afterwards. I didn't do that here. I'm sure there are people that can find faults with this novel. I have no doubt of that. I'm sure there are people that don't like this novel. I have no doubt of that. The breadth of art is open to everyone's own interpretation and their own likes and dislikes, and I begrudge no one for their individual takes, even if it means they didn't like this novel, because I absolutely loved every second of reading this. This is quite possibly one of the most beautiful pieces of literature that I've ever had the pleasure to read. Basically, I'm telling you, this is a masterpiece by a master craftsman, and you should absolutely read East of Eden. Whatever book you're reading now is not as good as East of Eden. Whatever book you're thinking about reading right now is not as good as East of Eden. East of Eden is better than any book you've ever heard of or thought of or could even begin to dream about reading. Stop what you're doing, go get a copy, and read East of Eden. No qualifiers at all. East of Eden gets an astounding 5 bookworms out of 5.